Hey guys, Real Randy Chavez here. I was actually thinking to myself the other day, like, you know what? I should bring up the fact that the what I do right now, as far as making videos of sales data, really couldn't be done, 3 years ago because there wasn't as much sales data. Yeah, there was a little bit of amount, certainly not every day. But then, of course, as I was thinking that, I only have like six things to go over today. But it's okay. This is really just me, and there's definitely enough sales data out there. I just specifically only focus on normally WotC, some gold stars, and then some other things that I find interesting. But started off, we have a Pidgeot First Edition PSA 9, sell for $202. That's just in line with the 5 to 8 times because the 10 sells for about 1,100. Jolteon First Edition PSA 10 sold for 1,649. We had a Rockets Moltres First Edition PSA 9 sell for 250. And if the 10 only sells for like 650 and it sells for two, I'd say the 10 should be worth a little bit more. Or was this overvalued? Maybe right now the 9 might be a little overvalued, but in time it won't be. But the 10, I think that'll be. I think eventually that you're gonna find, and this is probably gonna be a few years in the future, probably like 3 or 4 years, that you're not gonna be able to find a WotC Holo First Edition PSA 10 for under $1,000. Again, that's years in the future. That's just my thought. If you want to be very early to the game, you can by all means do that. We had a couple of... All right, so a Dark Golbat First Edition PSA 10 sold for $250. And then we had a Brock's Ninetales First Edition PSA 10 sold for $295. So the Dark Golbat, Arbok, and Weezing, I don't know why. Maybe because they're easier to grade and there's a lot of them, but they typically don't go for a lot. But Arbok and Weezing, I feel like, especially Dark Arbok and Dark Weezing, Team Rocket. Like those are some of the most prominent cards, prominent Pokemon in the anime, and I guess in the game as well. Because in the first couple generations, Rocket, Grunts, even Koga had Weezing. I don't think he had Arbok. No, he had Arbok as well. Yeah, and so they're very big figures in the game and in the anime because Jesse and James had them, but they they don't do so well as far as sales go. And Brock's Ninetales, that's another thing. First edition PSA 10, WotC Holo, under $300. That's really good deal. Really, really good deal. So moving on past that, there's a couple of ones that I wanted to show as far as cards that aren't normally mentioned. Super pretty, I think. I'm not sure what language Windy is. Windy? I don't know how to pronounce it, but it is from 1999's Arcanine. It's only PSA 9. I don't know if there weren't a lot of these made, so I don't know if there's a 10 actually available. But if you look at the back, it's not a traditional back. The back is, 250, 160. I guess that's the weight and the kilograms. Yeah, so that's how tall it is, the weight, and I can't read any type of kanji or Japanese, but this is just such a cool card. I think I just paid like under $100, but it's just so interesting and cool. Why I wanted to go over a couple of these things is because we did have a couple of sales for cards that I don't normally cover. They're called Cardass cards, and the Cardass ones I have one of right now. They were from 1997, and the ones that sold were it was three of them in this one. There was an Aerodactyl, an Omastar, and a Kabutops, and they're all PSA 9, and they sold for $100. So these are very unique cards. They're old, they're mint. So they're old, they're mint, and the Prince of Pokemon, Scott Pratt says, the older, the rarer, the minter, the better. They're old, they're mint, and they're pretty rare. There's not a lot of these made, and I think in the next couple of years, probably in the next 6 months to a year, you're gonna see that a bunch of these collectors that are getting into the hobby now, you don't start out in something niche. You start out, for the most part, what you liked when you were younger, when you were a kid, and that's what brings the nostalgia, brings you wanting to get that because the artwork, because you remember having good times battling with friends, and most of the time that's WotC. Most of the time that's just the first couple of generations of Pokemon. That's what you did, and if you're a little younger, let's say if you're only 20 years old and maybe you didn't grow up with WotC, but you had the E-Series or the Aquapolis sets, maybe that's what you'll go for. And then eventually, as you're in the hobby and as you're in the, Pokemon universe, and you find other cards that oh, these are cool. These are legit. Or even some newer cards. Again, newer cards. There's a lot of print. You know, I don't know how much money there is in modern stuff. So I don't really do it. I don't cover it. And I think some of the artwork for some of the full arts are beautiful, but the card ass cards, they're a unique form of artwork. So obviously, you know, Growlithe, Arcanine, they're some of my favorite Pokemon, and this back is pretty cool also. So this is also from 1997. You know, the card ass ones, and they're not a lot of them. A lot of them aren't around. Like I guess a lot weren't made. You know, these print runs that they did were nowhere near what they did for WotC, nowhere near what they did for the first, second generation, even first edition. So there's not a lot of them found, and they're hard to. They're very cool cards that you can get for very, very cheap. This one, same thing. I think I paid for like $60 for this. And this is a gem mint card. Again, maybe some people are because Arcanine looks or Growlithe looks a little weird. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's not his normal thing, but I think that's what gives it something unique about it as well. And again, the back it shows. I'm not 100% sure what the chart is supposed to show, but anyone could translate. By all means, go. Some of it shows how tall he is and how much he weighs. But another one. This is from a Top Sun. You guys may have heard of. Again, something with the back is very it's just different. Something you don't see. Again, not sure what it says, but this is from 1995. This is 25 years ago. It's older than some of you. Arcanine, same thing. Gem Mint 10. And this artwork is very, very similar to the artwork that we knew, you know, growing up, artwork today, as far as Arcanine. Even you could see, you know, there's little Mewtwo and Arbok and Onix drawings in the back of it. So I thought that was really cool. But same thing, this one, probably $100. Or at least that's when I bought it. I don't know what they are now, but why I'm bringing this up is because you're going to see, as you go into the hobby, you find other things that like you didn't know existed. Like I didn't know some of these things existed. And do you remember in the series, like just anyone that watched the show, you would some really epic moments like when Ash was versing that guy. He was a gym, but he wasn't really a gym. He like had these what looked like BDSM attachments attached to like his Sandshrew and his like Rattata. And Pikachu tried it on. Pikachu automatically, like, you know, folded up into a ball because it couldn't handle the resistance training. Those are cool moments. That, and remember that dude that had a Marowak in the show? He's like, me and my Marowak, we had 10 badges, and like Team Rocket stole them. Cool moments like that are on cards. I don't know about those two specifically, but remember that moment in the, I don't know what it's called. It's like when Charizard and Magmar fought, and that was a huge, amazing couple of episodes where they get to Cinnabar Island, and you couldn't really tell what was going to happen. Like, this was some of our first introductions to Magmar, you know, if you hadn't played the games, and his head looks like a butt, and he is just dominate, like, Pikachu can't touch him, and Charizard up until this time, you couldn't really gauge how strong he was. You think he's very OP. He's very, very intense. He's fast. He's strong. He can just throw out flames like a freaking dragon. And he never really had a challenge. Anything that could have tried to challenge him, Charizard thought it wasn't worth his time. But Magmar, holy shnikes. That pose, that is as iconic to me as Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, you know, Captain America and Iron Man doing that whole pose. And I actually just realized there's another card in there that I completely forgot to take out of the package, and it's some type of Misty card, and so that's wow, I did not know that was there. That's bad on me. But this card is just such an iconic moment. You see, they're really struggling. Like they're both really, really. Just you see it in their eyes. You can see the footwork that they're giving, and I guess it's from Bandai's Gem Mint PSA 10. I think I actually looked it up. There's like a dozen of these, and I got it for less than $200. This is showcasing a piece of history. This is something that is just an epic moment. Even if there were 1,000 of these, which is still pretty rare, you know, total. But even if there were, Like, this is just the artwork in general. The fact that I can look at this and it brings me back to that time of 20 something years ago. It's just, God, that's cool. And so the last one I'm gonna show, or before I show you the last one, I'll go over that last piece of data from Cardass as well. 99.7 Cardass. It was a PSA 9 Venusaur, a PSA 6 Charizard, and a PSA 9 Blastoise. So for $300. So all three of them together were $300. And that was the last one I had for the data. But that is something that's you can get the trio, and again, one's a PSA 6, but you get it for $300. That's you know, the Trinity. So this one was, and there's a bunch of these that I'm about to show. Bandai, but this was the same thing. Another two Pokemon fighting, you know, Charizard versus Poliwrath, and you remember this from the anime at the end of the season where they're in the Indigo Plateau, they're in the Pokemon League, and it'll show, you know, a little bit of the backstory on the back, which is pretty cool. But this is something that is, again, PSA 10. I got it for less than $100. So a lot of these you can get for less than 100. You know, a couple extra weeks at work, a couple extra shifts, and you can get one of these cards. And there's a bunch of these too. Like, these cards are, like, it's not just like, oh, there's only a few. There's a bunch, and I don't mean this particular card, but a bunch of images, and the images tell a story. Like, there's one of Charizard giving Magmar a seismic toss, and they all go in sequential. It's so cool. I love the story that they bring. Anyway, that's just something where, again, I'm going to reiterate, as people go into the hobby and they realize that there's other parts that you didn't know existed, they're going to go into that, and that's going to get flushed out. And especially the stuff that is rare. And they're rare, they're scarce, there's not a lot of them, they're really freaking cool. It'll never be as coveted as, you know, any of the main sets, most likely, but because there's so few of them, you're going to see a lot of competition for them, and that's just what's going to take the price go up. Either way, that is my video for today. Love you all. Please comment, like, subscribe, whatever you need to do. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.